the void of space stretched endlessly, punctuated by the imposing golden hulls of the Galactic Empire's Zenith Armada. Admiral Kvaran stood on the bridge of his flagship, Zephyr of Dominion, watching the lone, unassuming human vessel on his holographic display. It was smaller than any warship in his fleet, sleek in design, and utterly devoid of grandeur. To Kvaran, it looked like a child's toy, a toy that dared to trespass in his empire's space. "This is an affront," Kvaran growled, his voice resonating across the bridge. The officers around him stiffened, their ceremonial armor clinking as they turned to their stations. "Open the channel. Let them feel the weight of the Empire's might." The channel opened, and the human's bridge appeared on the holographic display. To Kvaran's irritation, the scene was surprisingly mundane. The human captain, a woman with dark, wavy hair and a faint smirk, leaned back in her chair, holding a steaming mug. Her crew moved about in practical uniforms, with none of the rigid ceremony he expected from a military vessel. "This is Captain Eva Moretti of the HMS Audacity," she said, her tone light, almost disinterested. "What can I do for you, Admiral?" "Admiral Kvaran of the Galactic Zenith Armada." Kvaran barked, puffing out his chest. He leaned closer to the display, his emerald eyes blazing with indignation. "You stand in violation of galactic law, trespassing in Empire-controlled territory. Surrender your vessel immediately, or face annihilation." Eva took a slow sip from her mug, raising an eyebrow as if he'd just told her the weather. "Annihilation? That's quite the opening line. Ever consider starting with hello?" Kvaran's face flushed a deep violet, a trait of his species when enraged. He raised a hand, signaling his comms officer to amplify his voice. "This is no trivial matter. You will comply, or your entire race will face the wrath of the Empire. Bow now, human, and perhaps I will show mercy." Eva set her mug down with deliberate care. "Wrath of the Empire. Mercy. Got it. Hold on just a second." She turned her head slightly. "Elliot, are you catching this?" "Loud and clear, Captain," a voice chimed in. It was cheerful, almost mischievous, coming from somewhere off-screen. "Perfect. Go ahead and send him our response," Eva said, waving a hand lazily. Kvaran narrowed his eyes. "What response?" His answer came a moment later, as the Empire's display screens blinked and then froze. A video began playing, a ridiculous, looping animation of a golden ship, much like Kvaran's flagship, being swatted aside by a cartoonishly large cat paw. A garish text overlay read, "You're in our space now." The bridge erupted in murmurs as officers scrambled to regain control of the systems. Kvaran's jaw dropped. What is this mockery?" "Your big scary ultimatum needed a little editing," Eva said, leaning forward now with an amused glint in her eye. "I think this version captures the tone a bit better." Kvaran slammed his fists onto the console, making it spark. "You dare insult the Zenith Armada? You dare insult me? Elliot, do we dare?" Eva asked, smirking. "I mean, technically, he dared us first," the voice replied with mock seriousness. "Fair point." Eva turned back to the hologram. "So, Admiral, is this the part where you puff your chest and fire a warning shot? Because, spoiler alert, we're not big on taking warnings seriously." Kvaran's eyes burned with fury. "Enough. You have brought this upon yourselves. Officers, prepare the fleet. Target the insolent human vessel and fire on my command." The bridge officers hesitated. One of them, a pale, lanky communications officer, glanced nervously at Kvaran. "Admiral, the video loop has infected the primary targeting system. It seems the human ship's AI." "Fix it!" Kvaran roared, cutting him off. The hologram flickered, briefly replaced by a new video. This one featured a group of humans in brightly colored costumes, dancing and lip-syncing to an ancient Earth song. The words "You've been officially clowned" scrolled mockingly across the bottom. Eva watched Kvaran's reaction with obvious delight. "Oh no," she said, feigning concern. "Are you having technical difficulties?" That must be embarrassing for someone with an armada. Captain Moretti, this ends now. Kvaran bellowed. Eva tilted her head. Oh, are you about to hit the big red button? Because I've always wanted to see one of those oversized dreadnoughts in action. They look, what's the word? Cumbersome. Inefficient. Archaic. Kvaran's fury boiled over. Mark my words, human, I will personally see to your destruction. Big words for someone who's been outmaneuvered by a dancing cat gif, Eva shot back. She leaned back in her chair, folding her arms. Tell you what, Admiral. I'll give you one free piece of advice, never start a war with someone who doesn't take you seriously. We've got nothing to lose, and that makes us very, very dangerous. Before Kvaran could retort, another voice broke in, this one belonging to a young human officer on Eva's bridge. Captain, we've got movement from the dreadnoughts. Looks like they're trying to realign their targeting systems. Eva nodded, her smirk widening. Finally. I was starting to think they'd never stop posturing. She glanced toward the unseen AI. Elliot, show them what real efficiency looks like. With pleasure, Elliot replied. On Kvaran's bridge, chaos erupted as human countermeasures took effect. The HMS Audacity moved like a phantom, slipping effortlessly between the lumbering dreadnoughts. Meanwhile, Elliot hacked into the Empire's fleet communications, replacing their tactical readouts with crude doodles of their ships crashing into one another. Admiral, a tactical officer cried. Their systems, they've disabled our fleet-wide coordination protocols. Kvaran stared at the holographic display, which now showed a caricature of him in exaggerated imperial robes, captioned, *Galaxy's angriest cosplayer. *. For a moment, he was too stunned to speak. Then his voice came low and dangerous. Prepare all weapons. I don't care if it's by hand, destroy them. The channel abruptly cut as the human crew burst into laughter. Eva turned to her officers, raising her mug in a mock toast. To first contact. They'll be talking about this one for centuries. The HMS Audacity vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Zenith Armada behind, a fleet of humiliated giants, undone by the audacity of humans. The tension in the command center of the HMS Audacity was palpable as the crew watched the holographic display of the Galactic Empire's fleet. The Zenith Armada's massive ships had begun realigning, their golden hulls glittering as they repositioned to encircle the lone human vessel. Captain Eva Moretti leaned back in her chair, tapping her fingers rhythmically on the armrest. Her calm demeanor belied the storm brewing on the bridge. Elliot, Eva said, her voice steady. How long before they're ready to fire? The AI's cheerful tone came through instantly. Judging by their clunky maneuvering and reliance on ancient targeting systems, I'd say about 2 minutes, Captain. Maybe less, if they skip their ceremonial chants. Eva smirked. Ceremonial chants. Of course. It's always about the show with these types. Lieutenant Harris, the young tactical officer seated to Eva's right, cleared his throat nervously. Captain, with respect, their show could still blow us out of the sky. Those ships are bristling with firepower. Eva turned her head slightly, raising an eyebrow. Firepower is impressive. Competence is terrifying. I haven't seen much of the latter from our friends out there. Harris didn't look convinced, but he turned back to his station, fingers flying across the console as he monitored the approaching dreadnoughts. Meanwhile, Eva gestured casually to the communications officer. Patch me through to Admiral Kvaran. Let's see how our fan club is doing. The holographic display blinked, and Kvaran's face reappeared, red with rage. Behind him, his officers were scrambling to re-establish control of their corrupted systems. The caricature of Kvaran still lingered on some of their consoles, mockingly captioned, *Galactic Diplomacy's Finest. Captain Moretti, Kvaran snarled, his voice practically a growl. Your insolence knows no bounds. I will personally see to it that your ship is obliterated, and your people's defiance will be written into history as the gravest mistake ever made by a species. Eva smiled, her tone light. Gravest mistake? That's a bold statement coming from someone whose fleet coordination is currently being undone by a meme generator. Kvarin's hands clenched into fists. You will not mock the Empire. We are power. We are order. We are. Excessively chatty, Eva interjected, cutting him off. Listen, Admiral, you've got a lot of shiny toys out there, but I'm starting to think they're all for show. So why don't you cut to the part where you try to intimidate us with something that actually works? Kvarin's eyes narrowed to slits. Very well. If you refuse to submit, I will demonstrate the might of the Zenith Armada. He turned to his tactical officer. Prepare the main cannons. Target their bridge. Before Eva could respond, Elliot's voice cut in. Captain, I've intercepted their firing sequence. Looks like they're about to go for the big guns. Want me to spice things up? Eva's smirk widened. Always. Back on the Zephyr of Dominion, Kvarin watched as his command ship's main cannon powered up, energy surging through conduits that glowed a menacing crimson. The weapon, designed to obliterate entire cities, hummed with lethal intent. And then, suddenly, it played a cheerful jingle. What is that infernal noise? Kvarin barked, spinning to face his officers. The jingle continued, a maddeningly upbeat tune that clashed with the dreadnought's intimidating aesthetic. The holographic display on the bridge shifted, showing an Earth-style pop-up advertisement, * congratulations. You've won a free vacation to scenic Earth. Click here to claim your prize. * Kvarin's tactical officer looked panicked. Admiral, their AI has infiltrated our weapon systems again. It's overridden the main cannon's charge sequence. Kvarin's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Then override it back. Eva, watching the chaos unfold on her own display, leaned forward. Elliot, I think you've outdone yourself this time. Thank you, Captain, Elliot replied, with a tone so smug it was almost palpable. Would you like me to send them the second pop-up? Eva chuckled. Do it. Kvarin's bridge descended into further chaos as another message appeared, * warning, Galactic Empire operating system outdated. Please download the latest patch for optimal performance. * The holographic text was accompanied by an image of a Galactic Empire dreadnought being overtaken by cartoon space rats gnawing at its engines. Admiral, an officer cried. Their interference is spreading to our auxiliary systems. We've lost control of 2 dreadnoughts, they're drifting out of formation. Kvarin's rage reached its boiling point. He slammed his fist onto the console. Enough. Full manual control. I don't care if we have to fire the cannon by hand. Eva's voice broke through on the open channel. You know, Admiral, I can't help but notice that for all your speeches about power and order, things seem a little chaotic over there. Need a minute to regroup? Silence, you insolent wretch. Kvarin roared. Your tricks will not save you. Eva feigned a gasp. Tricks? Admiral, you wound me. This is pure strategy. You should try it sometime. Harris, who had been monitoring the Empire's formation, turned to Eva with a mix of awe and disbelief. Captain, their ships are in complete disarray. 3 dreadnoughts have collided, and their flagship is venting plasma from what I assume was their main cannon port. Eva nodded approvingly. Good. Let's keep up the pressure. Elliot, what's our next move? Elliot's tone turned contemplative. Well, Captain, I could disable their propulsion systems entirely, but that feels a bit anticlimactic. Perhaps we should go for something more entertaining? Eva tilted her head, considering. What do you have in mind? Oh, you'll see, Elliot said, and though it was a machine, there was no mistaking the mischief in its voice. Moments later, the Empire's fleet-wide comms lit up with a new broadcast. It was a video of Earth's most infamous comedic fail compilations, featuring pratfalls, missteps, and slapstick humor set to an absurdly catchy tune. The human crew on the HMS Audacity erupted into laughter as they watched the confused expressions of the Empire's officers trying to make sense of the broadcast. Eva tapped her comms unit. Admiral Kvarin, I'm starting to think your fleet needs more team-building exercises. You know, trust falls, group hugs, maybe a seminar on not underestimating your opponents. Kvarin's face reappeared on the display, his expression apocalyptic. You mock us now, Captain, but when I am through with you, your kind will rue the day you crossed the Zenith Armada. Eva smiled sweetly. Admiral, you keep saying that, but all I see is a fleet falling apart. Words are nice, but actions speak louder, don't you think? The channel cut abruptly as Kvarin ended the transmission in frustration. Eva leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Harris turned to her, his expression equal parts admiration and incredulity. Captain, is this really how we're going to win? Eva looked at him, her smile unwavering. Lieutenant, sometimes the best weapon isn't firepower or numbers. Sometimes it's the ability to make your opponent trip over their own ego. Elliot chimed in, his voice brimming with glee. And memes. Never underestimate the power of memes. The HMS Audacity continued to drift effortlessly through the chaos of the Zenith Armada, untouched and unbothered. The bridge of the HMS Audacity was alive with controlled chaos as the human ship darted effortlessly through the disarrayed ranks of the Zenith Armada. Eva Moretti remained calm, her gaze fixed on the holographic display that showed the sprawling formation of the Empire's fleet in near-total disarray. Lieutenant Harris was glued to his console, analyzing the shifting positions of the enemy dreadnoughts. Captain, Harris began, his voice a mix of tension and excitement, they're trying to re-establish fleet cohesion, but their command protocols are still disrupted. 2 of their dreadnoughts are drifting into an asteroid field. Eva allowed herself a brief smile. Looks like their gold-plated hammer isn't quite as indestructible as they'd like to believe. Elliot, the ship's AI, chimed in. Not to rain on your parade, Captain, but their flagship is charging something. It's subtle, buried under a lot of redundancies, but I'd bet my circuits it's a superweapon. Harris's head snapped up. A superweapon? Captain, that could level entire fleets. If they get it online. Eva raised a hand to silence him. Then they'll have to actually hit something, Lieutenant. Not their strong suit so far. Her expression hardened as she turned to the comms officer. Patch me through to the fleet channel. Let's see if our grandiose friend is in the mood for another chat. Moments later, Admiral Kvarin's furious visage filled the display. His ornate uniform, pristine at the start of the engagement, now bore the crumpled look of a man pushed to his limit. Behind him, the bridge of the Zephyr of Dominion was a hive of frantic activity. You persist in this futile game, Kvarin growled, his voice low and venomous. Your antics may amuse your primitive crew, but the Zenith Armada will endure. We are inevitable. Eva tilted her head, her smirk just barely visible. Inevitable? That's rich. I don't know, Admiral, you're looking pretty evitable right now. Let me guess, this is the part where you unveil the big, shiny doomsday device? Kvarin's expression darkened. You mock the culmination of centuries of imperial engineering. This weapon is a testament to our superiority. It will be the end of your insolence and your kind. Eva leaned back, feigning a yawn. Superiority, huh? You mean the kind of superiority that gets tripped up by a cat gif? Or the kind that sends dreadnoughts careening into asteroid fields? I've seen a lot of things today, Admiral, but superior isn't one of them. Kvarin's fists clenched. This is your last chance, Captain. Surrender now, and your death will be swift. Refuse, and you will bear witness to the destruction of everything you hold dear. Elliot's voice broke through on the bridge. Captain, I've accessed the targeting subroutines for their superweapon. They're aiming for us, of course. But here's the fun part, the energy buildup is unstable. I could give it a little nudge, in. Eva cut him off. Not yet. Let's let our illustrious Admiral dig his own grave first. She leaned forward, locking eyes with Kvarin's hologram. You talk a big game, Admiral. But from where I'm sitting, all I see is a lot of bluster and no bite. Why don't you go ahead and fire? Show us how inevitable you really are. For a moment, the bridge of the Zephyr of Dominion was silent. Then, Kvarin's lips curled into a predatory grin. As you wish, Captain. Let history record your arrogance as the final act of your species. Fire the cannon. The energy surging through the Empire's flagship intensified, illuminating the surrounding void with an ominous red glow. Eva kept her gaze on the display, her expression unreadable. Harris muttered under his breath, "This is madness." The weapon fired. A beam of crimson energy lanced toward the HMS Audacity, splitting the darkness with terrifying precision. Harris gripped his console, bracing for impact. But the beam never reached them. Instead, it arced wildly to the right, slicing through one of the Empire's own dreadnoughts. The massive ship exploded in a fiery cascade, debris scattering in every direction. Gasps erupted from the bridge as Elliot's voice came back, chipper as ever. "Oops. Did I do that?" Kvarin's face reappeared, his features twisted in fury and disbelief. "What have you done?" Eva leaned closer to the display, her smirk now a full-blown grin. "Us? Oh no, Admiral, that was all you. Maybe next time don't put all your eggs in one unstable, easily hacked basket." Elliot interjected, for the record, their energy containment protocols were embarrassingly bad. "I've seen better safeguards in Earth arcade machines." Kvarin slammed his fists onto his console. "This is not over. The Zenith Armada will crush you, even if I must." Another explosion rocked the Zephyr of Dominion as the superweapon's unstable core began to overload. Sparks flew, and Kvarin's hologram flickered. Eva crossed her arms. "Admiral, you might want to reconsider your priorities. That glowing thing behind you? Not supposed to glow like that." The channel cut abruptly as Kvarin barked frantic orders to his crew. Harris turned to Eva, his voice shaking. "Captain, the flagship's core is destabilizing. If it goes, it'll take half their fleet with it." Eva nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Elliot, give me a countdown." 10 seconds to critical failure, Elliot replied. "Plenty of time to make a dramatic exit." Eva turned to her crew. "Helm, plot a course out of here. Tactical, keep an eye on the fleet's movements. I don't want any surprises on our way out." Harris hesitated. "Captain, are we just leaving? Shouldn't we try to?" Eva cut him off with a sharp glance. "Lieutenant, we've made our point. They wanted a show of power. We gave them one. Now, let's not overstay our welcome." The HMS Audacity pivoted gracefully, engines flaring as it accelerated away from the chaos. Behind them, the Zephyr of Dominion erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, the shockwave ripping through the nearby dreadnoughts. The once mighty Zenith Armada was reduced to scattered wreckage, their golden hulls dulled by fire and debris. As the human ship slipped into the safety of hyperspace, Eva let out a long breath, her composure finally softening. Harris turned to her, his expression a mix of awe and disbelief. "Captain, that was incredible. We just took on the Empire's greatest fleet and won." Eva smiled faintly. "We didn't win, Lieutenant. We survived." "There's a difference." Elliot chimed in. "Technically, we also humiliated them, dismantled their superweapon, and exposed their vulnerabilities to half the galaxy." "So, win adjacent?" Eva chuckled, shaking her head. "Call it what you want, Elliot. Just make sure we're ready for what comes next." The crew settled into an uneasy calm as the stars streaked past, leaving behind the remnants of a battle that would be remembered for generations. The humans hadn't just survived, they'd redefined the fight. The hyperspace jump ended smoothly, and the bridge of the HMS Audacity filled with the muted hum of its engines as the ship emerged into the relative safety of an uncharted sector. Captain Eva Moretti scanned the tactical display, ensuring no unexpected signatures lurked nearby. Satisfied, she leaned back, her expression a careful balance of relief and vigilance. "Status report," Eva called, her voice calm but authoritative. Lieutenant Harris tapped at his console, his brow furrowed. "Hull integrity at 98%. No significant damage." Energy reserves stable. We're clear, Captain. Elliot's voice chimed in, a touch too cheerful. Clear, indeed. And might I add, that little show back there? Flawless execution. I think we earned ourselves a standing ovation from half the galaxy. Eva allowed a small smile. If by standing ovation you mean we've painted a massive target on our backs, then yes, Elliot. Stellar performance. Harris looked up, concern evident in his tone. Captain, do you think they'll come after us? The remnants of their fleet, I mean? Eva exhaled slowly, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the ruined sector they'd left behind. They're licking their wounds, Lieutenant. But the Empire doesn't forget humiliation. Not like that. Elliot interjected. Oh, come on, Captain. What's not to forget? Their biggest dreadnought turned into a galactic fireworks show. Their superweapon took out more of their own ships than it did us. I'd say they're already rebranding as Galactic Empire, a comedy of errors. The crew chuckled, the tension on the bridge easing slightly. Eva didn't laugh. Her focus remained sharp, her fingers tapping a rhythm on the armrest of her chair. Humor's fine, Elliot. But arrogance will get us killed. Let's not forget, we're still one small ship in a galaxy full of enemies who won't see the joke. The AI's voice softened. Point taken, Captain. A beep from the communications console interrupted the moment. The officer glanced at the panel, his face tightening. Captain, we're picking up a broadcast. It's encrypted, but not Empire codes. Eva raised an eyebrow. Put it through. Static crackled briefly before a deep, resonant voice filled the bridge. This is High Counselor Viren of the Alliance of Free Systems. To the unidentified human vessel, we have observed your actions against the Zenith Armada. If you are willing to parley, we offer safe passage and protection in exchange for your cooperation. Harris looked at Eva, his unease clear. The Alliance? They've been quiet for years. Why now? Eva leaned forward, resting her elbows on the console as she addressed the bridge. Because we just did what they've been too scared or too weak to do for decades. We punched the Empire in the mouth. Now everyone who's ever wanted to fight back is taking notice. Elliot's tone turned analytical. Captain, I've pulled up what little data we have on the Alliance. They're loosely organized at best. Their fleet is a fraction of the Empire's size, and they've been on the defensive for decades. Not exactly the kind of backup you bring to a bar fight. Eva tapped her chin, weighing the options. Desperation makes strange allies. And right now, we're not in a position to turn down help. Open a channel. The officer nodded, and a moment later, the hologram of High Counselor Viren flickered into view. His features were sharp, his expression composed, but with an edge of urgency. Behind him, the command center of an Alliance vessel hummed with activity. Captain Moretti, Viren began, inclining his head slightly, you've managed what no one in the Alliance has dared attempt in decades. You humiliated the Zenith Armada. For that, you have my respect. Eva offered a faint smile. Respect is nice, Counselor, but I'm guessing this call isn't just about compliments. Viren's expression hardened. You're correct. The Empire's defeat in the Zargan Nebula has sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Resistance cells are emboldened. Some of our allies are preparing to strike key Imperial outposts. But the Empire will retaliate swiftly and brutally. If we don't act now, we'll lose the momentum you've created. Eva's eyes narrowed. And you want us to be part of your next move? Viren nodded. Your ship has proven its capabilities. You've shown ingenuity and courage, qualities we desperately need. Join us, Captain. Together, we can turn the tide. Harris glanced at Eva, his face pale. Captain, we just barely survived that fight. If we get dragged into another. Eva held up a hand to silence him, her gaze fixed on Viren. What you're asking isn't a small favor, Counselor. My crew signed up to explore the stars, not fight a galactic war. Viren's tone grew firm. You've already joined the fight, whether you wanted to or not. The Empire won't let what happened today go unanswered. They'll hunt you. You need allies as much as we do. Elliot chimed in, his voice laced with caution. He's not wrong, Captain. The Empire isn't exactly known for letting bygones be bygones. Eva studied Viren's hologram, her mind racing through the possibilities. If we agree, what's the plan? The counselor's expression softened slightly, sensing her consideration. A coordinated strike on a key Imperial installation. It's a fuel depot supplying their outer rim fleets. If we destroy it, their ability to project power in this sector will be severely crippled. Eva leaned back, her lips pressed into a thin line. High risk, high reward. Viren's voice was steady. Exactly. But with your ship's capabilities and our fleet's support, the odds are in our favor. The bridge was silent as Eva weighed the decision. Finally, she nodded. We'll join the operation. But on one condition. Viren raised an eyebrow. Name it. Eva's voice was firm. If this goes south, my crew's safety is my priority. If I decide to pull out, we're not sticking around to be martyrs. Viren inclined his head. Agreed. I'll transmit the coordinates for the rendezvous point. Welcome to the Alliance, Captain Moretti. The hologram vanished, and the bridge crew collectively exhaled. Harris turned to Eva, his expression a mix of worry and admiration. Captain, are we really doing this? Taking on the Empire again? Eva stood, her gaze sweeping across her crew. We are. Because if we don't, we're just waiting for them to find us. I'd rather fight on my terms than theirs. Elliot's voice broke the tension with a hint of humor. And besides, Lieutenant, think of the memes we'll make along the way. The crew chuckled, their spirits lifting slightly. Eva returned to her chair, her expression resolute. Set course for the rendezvous. Let's see what the Alliance is made of. As the stars streaked past the HMS Audacity, Eva knew the fight was far from over. But for the first time, she felt a spark of hope. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was starting to fight back. And that, she thought, was a victory worth chasing.